Hey fellow golfers, this is Robbie from Best Ball. One of the most popular names in the golf accessory market today is Western Birch. Stop reaching in your pocket for boring plastic or plain white golf tees and elevate your game with premium wooden golf tees from Western Birch. You can customize both the hardwood and bamboo tees with one of their signature stripe patterns in a wide variety of colors. These tees are stylish enough to stand apart from the crowd, traditional enough to align with golf's heritage, and durable enough to make you forget about using anything else. Enter the code BESTBALL in the promo field in your shipping cart to add a free gift to your order. So visit westernbirch.com and get your own premium wood golf tees in the style that suits your game.
Even I'm a big proponent of doing speed training with a ball and a club. So if you're going to go to the range, get warmed up and then take 10, 20 balls with your driver. Try to hit them as far as you can and get comfortable doing that. You know, we want to do that for two reasons. One, we want to know we have that extra gear, and we want to know we have some control of the golf ball with that extra gear. But also, the more our 100% swing goes up, the more our 85, 90, whatever our playing speed swing is going to go up with that. So we train at 100%, knowing we're not going to always make that swing on the course, but we want to know we have it in the bag when we need it or we want it. But we also want to know that comfortable swing is moving up with it. We know that effortless swing, so to speak, we're getting more out of it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Whole Story Podcast. Robbie and Jonathan here. We are joined by a very special guest today, J.P. Guidry, who hails from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So he's a big Go Tigers fan. But let me read a little bit of his bio as we get into this. Doctor of Physical Therapy, Titleist Performance Institute. He's a certified fitness professional, founder of the Guidry Golf and Sport. He's an author of Becoming a Lifelong Golfer. Jonathan, you'll like this next part. Your Guide to Hitting Bombs and Playing Without Pain Forever. He's on a mission to help people perform better, play without pain, be more active, lose weight, and live happy, healthy, and full lives, and obviously get better at golf. So, JP, welcome to the Whole Story Podcast.
I'm glad to be here. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, you mentioned hitting bombs and living pain-free, two things that I cannot do at this moment in my life. So maybe this will be helpful for me. 30 minutes later, I'll be healed, right?
We'll see what we can do.
So let's start. You're a doctor of physical therapy. Obviously, that you knew was the calling. How did you take that and shift it to golf? Did you always know you wanted to be involved with sports? Because you do other things as well.
Yeah, so I grew up playing sports. I guess somewhat ironically, I'd never really played golf as a child. I played baseball and basketball growing up through high school, and then went to college at LSU for my undergrad, and went to University of St. Augustine in St. Augustine, Florida for my physical therapy degree. And that's really kind of where I fell in love with golf. You know, in Florida there's a golf course on every corner, so golf kind of became my escape from school, and it was another way to kind of be competitive, as I wasn't really playing many other sports at that point. And so I always knew I wanted to work with athletes going into the physical therapy field. And the more and more I fell in love with golf, the more I wanted to make that a part of my career as well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about fitness in golf, and for the probably the people that listen to us would think, yeah, that makes sense. But for the average person, when they watch a bunch of old folks out on a golf course, or middle-aged men with more round in their stomach than maybe their shots, how does that fitness come into play? Because I mean, I started playing golf. Robbie and I started playing golf together when I was like 27. I wasn't worried about fitness at all, because technically I was still sort of fit. Now I'm 44, and it's like after a round of golf, it's a whole different game the next day than what it was 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, so obviously it's something that in the last kind of 10, 15 years has become more popular with Tiger, and then now, most of the guys on tour, being involved in it. Even when I came out, I've been out of school for probably close to 15 years. It still was a newer idea for golf. It kind of lagged behind a lot of other sports, even on the pro side, but especially your recreational golfer. And you kind of, your picture you painted of yourself is what I see a lot is, golfers in their 20s and 30s, you're playing, maybe you work out, maybe you're active, maybe you're not, but you're still kind of getting around without a lot of problems. And then we get into our 40s, 50s and above, and then those problems start to show up. And so, part of what I promote is trying to start the process of fitness in your 20s and 30s, even when you don't really feel like you need it, to prevent those problems from coming on later in life. And obviously, if they're developed later in life, it's never too late to get started. But obviously I'm biased. I think it's a huge part of staying in the game. Obviously, performing, hitting it further, things like that, it's a benefit. But just being able to play and practice as much as you want as we age, I think it's a huge part in that, and just being able to enjoy the game as a recreational golfer.
Well, you mentioned how Tiger in the professional ranks kind of changed the game when it comes to fitness and health and things like that. But prior to it, people would say, well, golf's not a sport because look at all the guys that are playing golf. They are, out of shape, big bellies. Just they couldn't do any other sport. But yet, yeah, you're right. Since Tiger, it's taken a whole new game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, those guys were still obviously talented, and if you look at a lot of those guys' backgrounds, they had athletic backgrounds. They played multiple sports growing up, and so we kind of confused the look a little time with performance. They both matter, and obviously the look on PGA Tour now is a lot different. Those guys all look kind of fit and athletic, where 20, 30 years ago maybe not everybody fit that build, but they were still athletes. And, golf is still a game of skill, and there's still aspects outside the gym that need to be worked on that really determine how we perform, how we score. What we do in the gym just helps support that and gives us the ability to do those things at a higher level.
So what do you say to a golfer? Let's say he's 44 years old. He plays golf every once in a while, and maybe a little intimidated by, like Bryson DeChambeau and doing all these specialized massive equipment, or I can't do a plank probably for 30 seconds. So, like, how do you take someone whose the level of fitness is questionable at best and begin introducing them into, here's some fitness ideas that can help not only, I'm assuming, the rest of my life, or sorry, this imaginary person's life, but also my golf game. How do you walk someone through that beginning process?
Well, yeah, it all starts with meeting the golfer where they're at. So obviously, look, if you're someone that's never seen a gym, I'm not going to give you Bryson DeChambeau's program, so to speak. I'm going to take you from where you're at. If you've never seen a gym, we're going to start with basic stuff, just working on moving better, getting more mobility, especially through our hips, our trunk, our shoulders, our neck, kind of the areas important to the golf swing. We're going to work on just building general strength through the body, and easy to do movements that fit what you're capable of to start with. And then obviously we'll want to pull you along forward, maybe a little bit closer to where those things Bryson does. Whether we ever get there or not is kind of irrelevant, person to person. But that's I see that a lot, is people kind of see that level of it and they think, well, that's what all of golf fitness, quote unquote, is. And there's so many nuances to it, and that I work with some professional golfers. I haven't had the chance to work with any on the PGA Tour level, but a few kind of Korn Ferry and mini tour golfers. So, most of them are in their 20s. I can push them a lot harder. I'm not going to take a dad in his 40s and 50s that's never seen a gym and do that same program with them. Those are going to look, while we're maybe working similar movements and similar things, how we go about it's going to look totally different.
So, stretching and flexibility obviously are big. And I remember growing up, I've played golf like you. I played other sports, but have kind of tinkered around with golf my whole life. And I remember playing with some older men at a certain time, and they'd say, man, I remember when I used to hit it like that. And my son, who's almost 19, probably over Christmas, I was playing with him, and the thought, and actually I think I said it, watching him swing it, I remember when I could do it like that. But that goes to the stretching and flexibility, right? Like, it doesn't have to stop once you hit a certain age. If you're doing the right things, I think, like your programs and your book have said, you can kind of keep up where you've been and maybe even get back to where you've used to be, right?
Yeah, 100%. So the best way I put it is like trying to slow I hate to use the term flatten the curve with all the times it's been used, but you're trying to flatten that curve of your peak. So, we're going to typically we're going to peak in like our late 20s, early 30s, and then we're going to start to see some decline from there. What we're trying to do is getting with people in their 20s and 30s is to stop that decline or flatten that decline for longer. If you've already started the decline, we want to get it back heading in the other direction. So, it's flexibility, it's strength training, it's power and speed training. These are all things that with age we lose, and they're all important to how we perform in any athletic endeavor, but also just how we perform in day-to-day life. I mean, these are things that are important to just staying independent and functional as a human being as we get older, and feeling good and feeling pain-free, let alone, being able to hit it further and play, golf without pain.
Are there any things that, because you're obviously looking at other sports, other athletes, other people that might just be in need of some type of therapy, but is there anything that's so golf specific that it's just unique to what we're doing in this sport, or does it kind of carry over between other places?
No, I mean, obviously the skill part of golf is this part that's specific. This is the part that I think gets messed up when it comes to golf fitness is, it shouldn't look a ton different than a lot of other athletes. There may be some mobility pieces that are going to look different. Obviously, most rotational sports are going to look the same. Your golf, your baseball, your throwers in the Olympic events, things like that. I mean, you're not going to look in the gym a lot different. We're trying to rotate. We're trying to get stronger through our lower body, through our core, through our upper body. We're trying to move explosively. I mean, that's going to carry 95% of everything you need to do for performance in any of those sports. Now, there may be that 5 to 10% where, okay, if you're trying to hit a certain position in the golf swing or change things that you can kind of work on, but that's a very small portion of what we're really trying to accomplish from the fitness side.
Well, you talk about heavy lifting and kind of the power training and stuff. I think a lot of people are probably scared that, once they hit a certain age, they might get injured. And so they don't even want to start because they don't want an injury to keep. It's one thing being, sore or in pain a little bit, but, they fear the injury side that would keep them from doing the things that they want to do.
Yeah, look, that it can happen, and so that's the importance of, for lack of, unfortunately, a little self-promotion of working with people like me is making sure you're doing those things correctly, and making sure you're starting at a place that is right for you to start at, and kind of going back to that first conversation of, I wouldn't want someone in their 50s to go take Bryson DeChambeau's program and start on that if they've never seen a gym, because there is a likelihood they may get injured doing that. So, there are plenty of modifications and ways to perform similar movements and to improve strength and to lift heavy, which is relative to everybody, that's going to benefit them, that is going to do it in a very safe way, where there's really no risk outside of just kind of the risk that comes with anything we do in life actively. So, it's a common fear. I hear it all the time from people, especially as they get older and especially if they don't have a big background of doing those things. But that's the importance of working with a qualified professional to make sure you're starting in a place, you're performing the movements correctly, you're doing all these things so that, when you do start to add some weight and push things, you're doing it in the right way.
So I should not start with the 300-pound deadlift? Is that what you're saying?
No, I would work your way up to that, at least over a couple weeks.
Couple weeks. Okay, good.
I think one of the things that golfers do is probably a pretty common thing for most golfers is they show up to the course 10 minutes, 5 minutes before their tee time. They run out there, throw the first ball in the ground, and the first or second time they've swung is their first tee shot, and injuries lead to there. So give the listener a little bit of, here's why you need to do some proper stretching prior to getting out on the course.
Yeah, I mean, look, warm up. You're just saying, warm up is one of the kind of lowest hanging fruits to performance in golf. And you hear it all the time, man. It takes me 5-6 holes to get loose. Well, and that's typically the guy that shows up and puts a tee in the ground and goes. And it's like, well, yeah, that was your warm up right there, your first 5-6 holes. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be 30 minutes, an hour long. It doesn't even necessarily have to be done in a gym. The key with warming up is you want it to be dynamic. So if you think about static stretching where we're holding positions, there's actually a lot of evidence that shows this is detrimental to performance if done before. Those are good things to maybe do after as you're cooling down or just general mobility. They can be useful, but for a warm-up, you want to be just moving in and out of positions. You can take some of the same movements, touching your toes, rotating, whatever it is, and you just do them more dynamically where you're moving in and out of the position. You basically, the formula or the recipe for a good warm-up is to take your body, take your joints through a full range of motion actively. Maybe have a couple bands that you can do a few things with just to get your muscles contracting. And I like to do something fast. So, I'll say take your driver out, grab it by the head, swing it 10 times fast as you can, flip it over, grab it normally, swing it 10 times fast as you can. And because that's really our first tee shot, that's what we're doing. You know, we're generally it's going to be a par 4 or par 5. You know, my home course I used to belong in, we had a par 3 as our first hole. So every now and then you see that. So, but typically you're going to be hitting driver, you know, and the driver swing's a very dynamic, powerful thing. So you want to prepare your body for that and to be able to do that right away, not 6 holes in.
So whenever I was 20 something, I remember looking at old guys going, I'll never be old. And now that I'm middle aged, I'm like, oh, now I'm old and I'll probably end up just like those old guys. How do you temper expectations, or what should be the expectations? Because you said, you know, we're flattening the curve. At some point, Father Time wins. What could our expectations look like? Let's say you do spend, I'm 44. So if I spend the next 5, 6, 7 years on an active program, what could my 50s look like if I'm doing this on a regular basis?
Well, look, I've had guys that have had more speed in their 50s than in their 30s by doing things like that. So it's not always necessarily just slowing the decline, especially if you haven't done anything. You know, if you're someone who's been training your entire life, then it's more about kind of controlling that inevitable decline that's going to happen to a degree to all of us. But, you know, I've had plenty of clients I've worked with that have reversed that and even gotten to a higher peak, so to speak, than they were because they weren't training in their 30s. You know, they were just going off their natural ability. So, you know, that's a very real possibility to get even more speed or more whatever than you did in your 50s than you did in your 40s, 30s, and 40s. But at the very least, trying to get back to where you were, and then continuing to keep that as close to, you know, where that number is or where those numbers are as you get into your 60s, your 70s, and above. You know, my oldest client I've worked with is 88. And so, you know, he gets in the gym every day and he plays golf 5 days a week. That's what he does. So, but his whole purpose is, I just want to be able to play golf 5 days a week. You know, now he's gotten a little more distance and he's gotten some other things out of it, but he's going at it from the standpoint of like, I love golf. This is what I want to do. This is my, you know, where I spend most of my time. So I'm in the gym just so I can keep doing that. So it may not always be just like performance numbers. It may be just the ability to actually go out and play at 88.
Yeah. So the senior tour is still on the list. Is it 55,
Oh,
56 is the start
50.
of the senior tour?
50, so yeah, you got to get to work.
I got to get to work. I got a few things to work on.
Well, you talk about all the different things that people need to be doing. And let's talk about your programs and things like that. I know you do kind of in person, but you do online classes and stuff. Like, how do people connect with you? What does that program look like? I'm sure it's different for everybody. But talk us through a little bit about kind of how maybe you take a 44-year-old guy named Jonathan in Augusta and make him on the senior tour. Not counting skill, right? But
just to get him physically ready at least.
Yeah.
So like I have some kind of what I would call middle tier programs, my book, things like that, which are more kind of generalized just programs based off of kind of what has worked for me over the last 15 years and what kind of the best practices and evidence shows. For my kind of higher level online coaching, you know, this is definitely more individualized. It's more one-on-one. I do a video assessment, so I'm kind of watching you move, take you through some mobility tests. You know, I get an idea of what your schedule looks like, what equipment you have access to, what your life like, you have kids, job, all these things, because ultimately the program has to fit you and has to fit your lifestyle. And that's the biggest component that I don't think is talked about as much when we talk about all these things, is that the consistency is what matters. So it's got to be a program that realistically you can do, that you can fit into your lifestyle, and obviously it's got to get progress with that. You know, you've got to get towards your goals. So, but I could build you the best program, but if it's 5 days a week and you sit here and tell me, well, I only have 3 days a week to work out, it's probably going to end up being a failure. So part of that assessment process is building a picture of who you are physically, but you know, what your life is like, what your schedule's like, and then I put that program together and then I take you through it as your coach. So we're interacting, you know, at the very least once a week, making changes as we need, modifications, whatever that may be. So I'm kind of walking you through the program, making sure it's constantly fitting your needs, and obviously we're moving towards whatever goals we have in the right direction.
there you go, Jonathan.
Man,
I know. It can happen.
I'm trying to figure out how many days a week I've got. I mean, I just had my first tour event yesterday, an amateur tour that goes nowhere. But still, like, there's a chance. 50.
You got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere. Well, I mean, I think you talk about that, and people are like, "Oh, that's not for me." But I mean, yeah, you got your personal trainers at the gym, things like that. But you look at the professional guys and ladies that are playing, and they always talk about their teams of people, right? So there's always some kind of strength or nutritionist or somebody like yourself, physical therapy that is on their team that helps them do it. So. They are performing at their best because of folks like you who are in their corner and on their team.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, it's we, in the strength and conditioning kind of rehab field have become more of an integral part of that team and that level. And so in my opinion, it really doesn't matter the level you're at. If you want, if you want to hit it further, that's a big part of it. But if you want to keep playing, you want to play without pain, you want to be able to play and practice as much as you want to be able to make it through a week-long golf trip or whatever that may be, the fitness part has to be part of it. I mean, there's no question about it. And the other part of that equation is just being a more capable human being in anything you do. I mean, that's the beautiful side effects of all this is as you're aging, you're ensuring that you're going to stay independent and functional in anything you want to do. Golf being one of those things, but if you have other hobbies, you want to travel, yard work, whatever it may be, it's going to help you become a person that can do all those things without limitations, without problems.
Yeah. The buddy list trip or the buddy trip is kind of a big popular thing, and everybody talks about it. You go to these destination places, and many people, after that first round, maybe they get into the second one. After that, soreness kicks in. They've probably been drinking and eating too much anyway. But if you prepare, right? If you say, hey, I've got this trip on the calendar, and hopefully you're not jumping into it without doing anything, but if you prepare and are ready to handle it, then it makes it a lot more enjoyable on that fourth, fifth, sixth round, however many you're playing, because you have prepared your body and to handle it, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have clients that's what brings them to me is like, hey, I've got this, I'm going to Bandon in 6 months. I need to get ready for it. I'm walking, I'm playing 6 days in a row. So I get those comments a lot of, that's kind of the initiator for a lot of guys that have never been in the gym is like, I don't want to pay all this money and commit all this time and then get 2 days in and my back can't hold up and I can't play or I'm struggling to play or I'm losing all my money to my buddy. So, so it is a catalyst a lot of times for change. And then my hope is obviously once they get done with the trip, they continue on with whatever they're doing, whether it's with me or on their own. But, that is realistically, it's a pretty consistent reason of why people reach out to me, because it's they want to show up, they want to beat their buddies, but also they want to be able to just finish the trip too.
Yeah, you can't come home after you've been gone for 4 days with your buddies and complain to your wife about how sore you are, or
no,
I need a couple days, baby, without doing anything. Yeah, those are good options.
No, that doesn't typically go very well.
Part of your book title talks about hitting bombs, and I know that goes with the strength training and things like that. But we hear so many people online talk about swing speeds and they're rolling back the golf ball because they're going farther. So how are you, I guess, helping people, coaching people up to hitting the golf ball farther?
So yeah, I mean, there's kind of 5 or 6 things we can manipulate to improve swing speed. 2 of them are going to be on the golf side, so to speak. So obviously our swing mechanics, optimizing that, our equipment, making sure we're fit well for that. I mean, those are things that can enhance our speed and our distance. On the side that I do, we have mobility. So the bigger turn we can make, the more room we have to generate speed. We have strength, which is force production, which is essentially the more force we can put in the ground, the more force we can put into the golf club and into the golf ball, the more speed we can generate, the further we can hit it. The golf swing is a very fast twitch movement. It's a very short duration explosive movement, especially the driver swing. So we need to train that way. We need to train our bodies to be able to move quickly. So things like jumps and medicine ball throws and medicine ball slams and things where we're moving lightweight very fast. And then the last component is the speed training. So that would be kind of like your stack systems, your super speed, those type of systems where we're basically training our nervous system to work within the movements of the golf swing as fast as we can. And a lot of times that's a big component, and a lot of times golfers aren't even tapping into what they're physically capable of before they even hit the gym. Especially we get golfers that kind of came up through like the 80s and the time frame where the golf was taught is just hit it straight. Don't worry about how far it goes, and find fairways, and that's where, that's how you're going to play the game. And now it's kind of flipped over where it's hit it as far as you can and go find your golf ball and hit it again. So those people that kind of learn that way, they have a kind of a governor, so to speak, on their speed, and that swing speed training really helps unlock that. And even I'm a big proponent of doing speed training with a ball and a club. So if you're going to go to the range, get warmed up and then take 10, 20 balls with your driver, try to hit them as far as you can and get comfortable doing that. We want to do that for two reasons. One, we want to know we have that extra gear, and we want to know we have some control of the golf ball with that extra gear. But also, the more our 100% swing goes up, the more our 85, 90, whatever our playing speed swing is going to go up with that. So we train at 100%, knowing we're not going to always make that swing on the course, but we want to know we have it in the bag when we need it or we want it. But we also want to know that comfortable swing is moving up with it. We know that effortless swing, so to speak, we're getting more out of it.
If you don't have a subtitle for your next book, Grip It and Rip It should definitely be included somehow. Because you just told me I could go to the driving range, warm up, and then swing as hard as I can. That's my favorite part about playing like Captain's Choice and that kind of stuff, best ball.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like somebody else punched it out 200 yards, and then I'm just going to swing for the fences. Well, the hard part, you said golf control of the ball, and there's little to no control of the ball.
Yeah, so that's where you practice at. I mean, we have drills and ways where we can where we can work that into speed training. So, the reality is you still got to hit it somewhere on the golf course, that where you had at least an open shot to the green, hopefully, on your second shot. But so there is a part of that where learning how to generate speed is number one, and then learning how to find the golf ball with that new speed is kind of the second layer to that.
Before or after you hit it? You didn't
Either
find the golf ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess if you can find it after, it's not in terrible shape. So.
That's what a good caddy is for.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned you spent some time in Florida, and that's really when the golf bug kind of bit you, and you fell in love with the game. I don't know how much you're getting to play now, but we ask all our guests one question. What is your most memorable golf shot?
Most memorable golf shot? That's a good question. I'll take it to a buddy's trip, because we went to Erin Hills last year.
Nice.
And we'll say I lost every bet I could possibly lose for the first 17 holes, and so I doubled down on everything. And I guess this might be multiple shots, but I hit probably one of the longest, straightest drives I've ever hit in my life, and then hit a hybrid onto the green on a par 5 there, and ended up 2-putting for birdie and and erased every bet I had. So that one sticks into my mind, just because the looks on the other guys' faces when I did that kind of made it all worthwhile.
But you were playing into their hand, because you'd been preparing yourself for the guys' trip, and you knew by hole 18 they were going to be tired, and you were still fresh.
I was waiting for that long par 5. I knew I had the distance on them too.
Fortunately, it wasn't a par 3 to end on. Otherwise,
yeah.
Hey golf friends, this is Robbie from Best Ball. Are you looking for the ultimate Myrtle Beach golf experience? Well, it's only a click away. Check out the 2-play special at 2 of America's most awarded public golf courses, and 2 of my personal favorites. Caledonia Golf and Fish Club and True Blue Golf Club are low country masterpieces featuring 2 iconic Mike Strantz designs. Play these 2 incredible courses for one great price. Visit truebluegolf.com to learn more about the 2-play special and book your tee time today. That's truebluegolf.com.
Well, we also always like to do a quick 9. It's just a couple of quick questions off the top, back and forth. You can be as loquacious as you prefer, or you can be short-winded as well. The first question is, what is the favorite course that you've played?
I'll say Erin Hills. That's probably one of the most favorite golf experiences I've ever had.
Well, that one's on our bucket list for sure, but we ask everybody else, what is the top course on your bucket list?
I guess everybody says Augusta, but I'll say, like, probably from a trip standpoint, Bandon's a trip that's the next trip I want to make. That's on my buddy's trip bucket list. Yeah.
Who's in your dream foursome? And if your buddies are listening, they may have to bribe you to get back on if you're going to Bandon. So.
Dream foursome, I would say I'll put a buddy of mine who passed away when we were young. He was an avid golfer, and like I never really was into golf when we were friends, so I kind of missed the chance of being able to play a lot of golf with him. Outside of him, I'll say Arnie. I'm always a fan of Arnie. And then I got to say Freddie Couples. He's my favorite overall golfer.
Talk about a smooth swing, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All right. This one might be funny. What's the dumbest question you've been asked as a golf performance coach?
That's a good one. Dumbest question I've ever been asked.
Is it this question?
I hate to call it dumb questions. I get a lot of questions about things that are kind of myths in the golf fitness world, balance-based questions. If you know what a Bosu ball is, it's the little ball, air-filled half ball, asking to do exercises on that. I would say it's those are the questions that kind of irritate me the most, or those are the myths, I guess, that float around golf fitness that bother me the most.
Any question that starts with, so I was watching this YouTube video yesterday.
Yeah, you get a lot of that. I saw this on Instagram or whatever. Like,
I bought this new thing late night.
Yeah.
In your 15 years, what muscle do golfers typically hurt the most?
I'd say the area is the low back. I mean, that's by far the area of complaint I see the most. Look, the golf swing is a stressful movement on the body. It's not a supernatural movement. There's a lot of torque, and a lot of that torque can go on the lumbar spine and the low back. So now there's plenty of ways we can do to mitigate that. Again, that's another reason to get into the gym. But that's by far the area of complaint that I hear the most and see the most.
All right. In the late 90s, early 2000s, Tiger would have been the easy answer for this. But what pro golfer does fitness and nutrition and performance the best right now?
I'm going to say a Gary Player just for his longevity in doing it, because he did it way at a time when it was, obviously Tiger still did it kind of when he came up when no one was really doing it, but definitely no one was doing it when Gary Player was doing it. And, you still see video clips of him today working out at, I don't even know how old he is, but, at an age that most people weren't doing that. So it's more the impressed by his longevity and sticking to that and doing it at a time, a long time when no one else was doing it, when he was kind of an outsider doing those things.
I kind of want to make this next question an A and a B answer, but what's your favorite snack on the course? We'll go with a healthy option and then the real answer, which is your favorite snack.
We'll say healthy option. I like a good kind of protein bar. I'll usually keep some in my bag. The unhealthy option, you got to have a good hot dog at the turn. You can't beat that.
I had 2 yesterday. It was amazing.
I'll say if you want to throw in a cold beer there, I don't mind one of those throughout the day too.
Jonathan, was that at the turn? Did you have 2 hot dogs at the turn?
I had 2 hot dogs at the turn, plus a bag of chips.
Might want to look at the scorecard and kind of associate the two here. Yeah.
I know, I lost 2 strokes on the back. Number 10 didn't do me. I was probably more interested in where my mustard was on my hot dog than my golf shot on number 10. And that might not be too far from the truth.
Yep. Well, now you can learn, right?
There we go.
All right. Favorite golf course logo?
Favorite golf course logo? That's a good one. I'll have to say there's a course down here in Mississippi called the Preserve. It's like 3 ducks kind of silhouette. Like, I don't know why that logo always sticks in my head. Every time I play there, I buy a hat with it on it. So I probably got 5 different of the same hats of the logo. But that's one of my favorite logos that sticks in my mind.
It's a good one. All right, last question. Finish this sentence. You will enjoy golf more and for a longer time if you...
Me personally, or just in general answer?
Either one.
You will enjoy golf more and for a longer time if you take care of your physical fitness. I mean, obviously it's more fun to play golf when you're not hurting. It's more fun to play golf when you can outdrive your buddies and you can perform better. And the longevity part of that kind of speaks for itself as well. The ability to play into your 70s, 80s, some people in their 90s and above, that has to be a part of it. I mean, it's kind of a non-negotiable if those are goals of yours. I'll say personally, when my kids get older out of the house, that'll be when I can play more golf and enjoy it more. That's my limiter right now in golf participation.
You're going to get them out on the course with you.
I take them out. They go out with me at times, but I got a 10 and a 6-year-old. My 10-year-old's a daughter. She has 0 interest in it, but she'll drive the cart. But my son's starting to get into it. But the problem is they play all these other sports that happen on weekends too.
Yes,
that's true.
Yep, we have kids, and we know exactly what you're talking about. No, it's great. Well, JP, this has been a lot of fun and entertaining and educational. I feel like I'm gonna go do some push-ups and drink a protein shake or something, and I'll call Jonathan and tell him what a plank is. But yeah, for everybody else, go check out GuidryGolfandSport.com and all the different things. We'll put links in the show notes, of course, and tag you on social media when we post this thing out. But thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's been fun. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, for JP and Jonathan, this is Robbie. You've been listening to another episode of the Whole Story Podcast. Today's podcast is sponsored by Atomic Golf. If you need custom ball markers, divot repair tools, and more that are made from high-quality materials like solid copper and brass and look really good, then you should check out our friends at Atomic Golf. If courses like Old Barnwell, Landman, Sweetens Cove, and more are already working with them, then you should too. Visit atomicgolf.club and follow them on Instagram at Atomic Golf.